Welcome to the Princess and the Bee podcast, the place to be to build your empire as queen of your body, business, and life. I'm your host, Kimberly Spencer, founder of crownyourself.com, and I'm an award-winning coach, Amazon best-selling author, and multi-passionate entrepreneur. Each week, I give you the systems, strategies, and success stories to help you master your mindset, communicate with ease, and triple your productivity so you make the income and the impact you deserve. Imagine this podcast as your weekly spark of inspiration as you take it to the next level with all the bees of your life. Body, business, bank account, boys, and babies. Let's make it rain.
Good morning, Princess and the Beers. I hope you're having the best day ever, and if you are not, it is about to get so much better because we are diving into an amazing best episode ever. Let's just set the intention. Let's just set the intention that, of course, it's going to be the best episode ever, and that every episode is intentionally the best episode ever because they're all the best episode ever because they're recorded in the present, and we're not comparing ourselves to any version of past or future. We are right here, right now, and that is why I want to thank you for your presence, for your attention, for your listening ears, for tuning into this podcast. I want to thank you for sharing this with your friends, with your family, with your colleagues, and with anybody who you are like, oh my gosh, so-and-so, that person, I know they need to hear this, and sharing that with them. I so appreciate it. It really is why this podcast is growing so quickly, and I am so grateful for you and for you showing up and being present because you are investing time in transforming your life and your beliefs and your perceptions and how you think about things. And that is the most powerful place to be. That is such it just deserves to be celebrated. Most of my clients, when they come to me, they realize eventually they're like, oh my God, I really need to be celebrated a lot more. And I probably need to be giving myself a lot more credit for all the little things I do every single day. And the answer is yes. So yes, I celebrate you. I thank you for showing up and for being here. And today we are diving into a topic that recently was a powerful breakthrough for me, of using obstacles as excuses for why you didn't show up 100%. And that is something that I think a lot of times we get confused on the path to our goal as what is an obstacle and what is an excuse, because they can look like the exact same thing, and yet on an energetic level, it depends on what we do with them. So, for example, my dad is in the hospital, and he's been in there for a little while, and I was going into a launch for the Princess process, but just a beta launch. So it wasn't like the big full out ads and all the things, but it was a beta launch. And suddenly, that week, my dad had been really struggling for a couple of months. And I had been experiencing his energy and seeing this downward spiral. And I was suddenly, even though 2 weeks prior to this beta launch, I was super excited. I was it was me and the team were projecting that this was going to be our biggest launch ever. And it was not. And I totally own why it wasn't. Because the obstacle that I had found of managing my own energy and not letting others' energies and other things kind of permeate how I do and how I do things and how I operate, I didn't let that happen. I wasn't the queen bee of my energy. I own it. It happens. And the thing is that over the past 2 weeks, while I was really excited to do this launch initially, this beta launch, 3 days prior, I suddenly had this crushing feeling of don't do it. It doesn't feel aligned. And I did it anyways because I had already committed to it, and operating in integrity is necessary for me, and it is one of my core values. So I operated in integrity. I followed through with doing the launch, and I wouldn't say I half-assed it. I definitely would say that it was 75% of myself was in it, and the other 25% was really the reason why it wasn't successful. And that's okay. That's totally okay. It's okay to have those failures as so long as you learn from them. And so I had a powerful learning lesson from it, which I get to share with you on the podcast. And I think the thing was that I was using this obstacle of my dad, and I'm not saying that it's a good or a bad obstacle. It just is an obstacle. Like, things come up on the path to any goal. Like, it is a natural thing. It is supposed to happen. In fact, it's one of the laws of the universe that it does happen. Like, that is just, it's natural. It is basically like, imagine a butterfly. Actually, backtrack. Imagine a caterpillar. And the caterpillar goes into its cocoon, and it knows it's going to become a butterfly. It's just obvious. It's like, of course it's going to become a butterfly. Of course it's going to grow into this beautiful winged creature that flies everywhere, from going from this like crawly thing. Like, of course it's going to transform. So it's in this cocoon. And I mean, I've read the Hungry Caterpillar like 5,000 times to Declan. So I believe it stays in its cocoon for 2 weeks. Like, that's what the book says, but I'm not sure if that's scientifically accurate. But in the book, it says 2 weeks. So it stays in its cocoon. Excuse me. And it stays in its cocoon, but then it has to get out of its cocoon, right? It has to push its way out. And like, can you imagine like wrapping yourself up in something? Like, if you've ever been to the spa and you have had one of those wraps done, I know I have, where they wrap you up, like they scrub you down and then they wrap you up like a baked potato, and then you're like they're baking, sweating, and you know this is good for you. It's like decreasing cellulite, it's eliminating toxins, it's getting the dead skin off of you, it's detoxifying your body, it's doing all the good things. At the same time, you're like, I'm in this cocoon, I cannot move, I am hot, this is uncomfortable. And if you think of the caterpillar then has to push its way out of the cocoon in order to become a butterfly. So imagine being in that spa and trying to push your way out of that heated, weighted blanket while wrapped up in a whole bunch of foil and saran wrap. And I've done some crazy spa experiences. They were awesome, very effective, but also very hot. And so imagine trying to get yourself out of that wrap. And so you're like baking in this wrap, and like it's weighted, and you kind of have to shimmy, and it's uncomfortable, and you gotta wiggle, and you're slowly peeking and pushing and getting out of that cocoon in order to transform into the butterfly that, of course, you already are. Like, the butterfly it's already gone through the transformation, but it's got to pierce through the cocoon so the wings can spread. The thing is if you just opened up a cocoon, if you're like, oh, okay, it's been 2 weeks, I'm going to cut this cocoon open so the butterfly can fly free, you're going to kill the butterfly. Why? Because the butterfly needs to strengthen its baby wings, because it just got the wings. It needs to strengthen its baby wings by pushing against the insides of the cocoon to get its way out. Now, how often are you just wanting to cut yourself out of that cocoon? Sure, it sounds like an easy fix. And yet you need those obstacles to become the person who can, does, and is all the things that you want to become. Yet so often we allow that obstacle to not just be the knife that cuts the cocoon so the butterfly doesn't grow stronger, but we allow those obstacles to become our excuses as to why we don't even try to get out of the cocoon in the first place. So say, for example, especially since I know we have a lot of coaches that listen to this podcast, say, for example, you are in a sales conversation with a client and they pose the obstacle that, oh, I don't have the money. I quote unquote can't afford it. I hate that term, but it's like you'll hear it. Like many people will use it. I just have eliminated that phrase from my life, but you'll hear it used. It's not having the money is the obstacle. They're making that their excuse. Like not having the money is let me rephrase that. Not having the money is the obstacle. What they're doing is they're making that the excuse. So what they're doing is that's the obstacle. That's the cocoon they are trapped in. That is the cocoon that they are stuck in, that it is your job as the coach to then guide them to get them stronger, to get them out of that cocoon. So let's say, for example, like my husband had a real estate deal several years ago, and it was a fantastic deal, and he just needed a bank to work with him on it. And he went to a first bank, and they said no. That's an obstacle. Now, he could have said, okay, that's a no, so I guess I can't do this. Well, that would be making that obstacle an excuse to not get out of his own cocoon. However, instead, he said, okay, you said no. He went to like 10 or 20 different banks. And then he went to in the last one that he went to, they were like, oh my gosh, that's a good deal. Yeah, that's a no-brainer. Of course, we'll set this up. You make it an excuse when you don't go bank after bank after bank after bank. You make it as an excuse when your husband says to you, don't invest in that program. You don't need that. Instead, you make it an excuse when your husband says, oh, my husband said I shouldn't invest in this program that I know will be really good for me. That's the only thing I haven't tried yet. You make your husband an excuse when he's really just an obstacle. He's an obstacle to test your level of commitment as to whether you can reach your goals. You are literally testing the boundaries of your cocoon. It is your job to work with that obstacle. So let's say, for example, to go back to the husband one, because that's a very common deflection of power that I go into in another podcast episode on how as coaches you can handle this excuse. Or this, because there are only 4 in sales that you will ever get. And so let's say, for example, you know in your soul that this online course is really going to help you. And your husband's like, oh no, you don't need it. You're going to do fine. You can figure it out. You're smart. Like the money and all these things. Well, your husband is now your obstacle. It's not saying it's good or bad. It's not saying he is out to get you or anything or doesn't support you. He's just your obstacle. He is the resistance, the natural resistance of that cocoon. It is up to you who is birthing, who is trying to get that butterfly out into the world. It is up to you to then push against that. It is up to you to say, okay, well, actually, here are all the reasons why this is really good. And I believe that this is a good investment. It is my business. And I think that this is something that I need to move forward with. And if you don't believe in that, that's fine. I will find a way to support this through my own business. And then you show them how necessary that program was. That was, of course, life-changing, right? That online course or whatever it was. But that is your obstacle. It is your excuse when you buy into that. Though if you say, oh, okay, yeah, okay, I guess you're right. I guess I didn't need that course. Oh, maybe I can do it on my own. Even though you've already seen the value, even though you already know in your soul that like you've tried everything and you need to do something different and investing in yourself, or investing in a course, or investing in a coach, or investing in new skincare products, or investing in a personal trainer, whatever it is that you need to do that's something different than what you have been doing. Because what you have been doing is going to keep you stuck in that cocoon. It's going to keep you stuck there. What you need to do in order to birth that gorgeous butterfly is you already have the butterfly. Like, if a butterfly stays in the cocoon, it dies. The same is if you let your dreams stay in that cocoon and you don't fight against those obstacles that come up. The dream or your business, it can die. And what happens with death is it creates all sorts of feelings, of negative feelings, of resentment, of guilt, of shame, of judgment, of resistance. So why do that to yourself? I mean, come on, Queen. We've got a world to fly around in as all the beautiful butterflies. So back to my own example, I caught myself using my dad going through what he was going through as an excuse to not really go all in. And I will always look at myself first whenever anything in my life or in my business feels like I'm not getting to fly as my beautiful butterfly self that I am born to be, that you already are. That's the thing about a butterfly, is that you already are the butterfly. You just need to strengthen your wings. You need to strengthen them against the obstacles that are coming up. So what happens is the butterfly does not question why they're in the cocoon. They know they're in the cocoon. They built it themselves. They know they're in the cocoon. They built it themselves. They were meant to be there. They know that. They also know that they've got to strengthen their wings to be able to get out. So they accept the fact that they're in the cocoon. So the first step is to first accept the fact that you're in the cocoon, that you are where you are. Look at exactly where you are right now. And then look at what is the quote-unquote cocoon, the metaphorical cocoon that you have created for yourself. Is it lack of finances? Is it money struggles? Is it, which is kind of the same thing as lack of finances, is it not launching your business when you said you were going to launch it 3 months ago? Is it not investing in that coach or not doing something different? Is it not having the baby? Is it not having that courageous conversation with your spouse about how you want them to stay home more? Is it not having that courageous conversation with that guy you're dating, that you'd like that to be a committed relationship instead of just dating? Whatever it is, look at where are the areas, what are the walls of your own cocoon that you need to push against in order to get there, in order to get to the place where you can spread your wings and fly like the butterfly that you already are. You just need to strengthen her. Like, she's already inside of you. That future self, I don't help my clients tap into anything that is not their authentic selves. I help remove, the cocoon, our own cocoons, are our conditioning. It's our beliefs. It's our habits that aren't serving us. It's all those things that we lock ourselves into, and it's anything that we don't like in our current environment. It's anything that we feel resistance in our current environment, or we feel frustration or resentment or fear or whatever, or procrastination. That is our cocoon that we're stuck in. And it is up to you to first assess where you are. Like, you're in the cocoon. What is your cocoon? What is the cocoon of the beliefs that you're stuck in? Maybe it's a belief of scarcity. Maybe it's a belief that or a fear that the money won't show up even if you make the investment. Maybe it's a fear that the guy won't like you anymore if you actually have that conversation that you want to be committed, because you know that he's never been committed in a relationship, or he hasn't had a committed relationship in a while. had to overcome that one with Spikey when I asked him to commit to being in a relationship with me. Because he had been single for 7 years, and that man took advantage of his single years. Like, he loved being single. He had a lot of fun, but at the same time, he loves being with me a lot more. He even tells me that. He's like, yeah, the single years don't even compare. I'm like, well, thank you. But I had to get out of my own cocoon with that. That was something that I had to say in order to strengthen the relationship that we're in. The relationship, like, had I not muscled up that courage, that strength to be able to say, okay, I want this to be a committed relationship. Let's go all in. Let's commit to being together, only each other. And then that, if I hadn't done that, I would have just been sitting inside my cocoon, like, and the relationship would have never blossomed into what it is today, which is 7 years. Like, we just celebrated being together or not being together, but 7 years of knowing each other. And it wasn't long after that after our first meeting, it took us about a month to go all in and to commit to being in a relationship. Because when you know, you know. But the thing is like, you have to muscle up that strength. You have to muscle up the strength that your dream has to be bigger than your fear. Your dream has to be bigger than your obstacles. Your dream has to be, you have to become stronger in order to achieve your dream. You have to tap back in. It's like the strength that you would get by peeling off all the layers of that, like, spa baked potato scrub thing. If you've ever experienced it, it's fantastic, and it also feels heavy AF. And it's like you have to peel back all those layers to get to the beauty that is within. Like, you are already your future self in many, many ways. You have qualities. You've seen glimpses of her. Like, she's in you. She just has less of the societal, familial, plagiarized beliefs that you have, because she has less of the conditioning that you have currently. It's up to you to peel back those layers of conditioning, of past programming, of limiting belief, of all the things, so that you can release her from her cocoon. She wants to fly. That's why you have this dream in the first place. You are fully capable of bringing this dream to fruition. You just have to stop using your obstacles as your excuse to not get outside of your cocoon. So, if you found this episode to be valuable, then share it with all your friends. Tag and take a screenshot of it and tag me on Instagram in your stories. Post it in your stories and tag me on Instagram at Crown Yourself Now and at Kimberly.Spencer, so that I can hear your top takeaways. Tell me, what is the cocoon that you are currently in? Is it a financial cocoon where you're like, I'm struggling with these finances and this is what I'm like working to get out of? Is it a relational cocoon where you're like, I would really like to have that committed relationship and I'm dating this guy and I don't know, I have to strengthen these muscles of courage to get out of there? Is it a cocoon around your business of, like, you're feeling like you want to launch this thing and you want to scale it and you want to be making some good money with it, but you're kind of stuck in this cocoon of not knowing how, or having obstacles, or having people tell you that you can't or are crazy or whatever? Like, tell me what it is in a DM on Insta. I love getting these. I love hearing from you, and I love interacting with you. And if you love this episode, please, please, please leave a review in iTunes, and every review helps spread the word a little farther about all the sparkle that is on The Princess and the Bee. As always, my fellow kings and queens, remember, your reign is now.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. If what you heard resonated with you, be sure to subscribe and share your breakthroughs and ahas with me by leaving a review on iTunes so I can keep the magic flowing your way. And if you aren't already following us on social media, come experience the extra inspiration and queenly convos on Instagram at Crown Yourself Now, or visit our website at crownyourself.com. I am so excited to connect with you in the next episode. And in the meantime, go out there and create a body, business, and life that rules.